So, a very good evening, everybody. I extend a warm welcome to all of you to today's webinar by Women and Child Mental Health Subcommittee of Indian Psychiatric Society West Zone Branch. I'm Dr. Alapi Prajapati, and I will be moderating today's panel discussion, which is on a very important topic, very concerning topic for modern era, and that is intimate partner violence. How to prevent, how to end. So every now and then we come across gruesome incidents related to spousal abuse and domestic violence, making headlines of our newspapers and news channels. And most of them involve psychological, physical, and even sexual torture. And sometimes it may lead to fatality. Uh, this intimate personal partner violence, which is fairly common in our Indian patriarchal society, and when I was looking into the literature, I found National Family Health Survey 5, which was conducted between 2019 to 21. And it says, it concludes that nearly 32% females of age 15 and above, they have experienced physical or even sexual harassment and violence towards them. So this is disturbing. So, with this background, let us start. Let us explore this topic more with our esteemed speaker for today's panel discussion. And today's panel discussion, we have our chief guest and a very senior and experienced teacher with us, Srinivasa Murthy sir. I welcome you, sir, and to grace today's panel discussion to honor us with your experience and knowledge. So, without any further delay, I would like to introduce you all to today's panelists, our experienced speakers.
Alapi, before that, to welcome Dr. Srinivas Murthy. And we also have Dr. Sudhir Bhave, who is the president of IPS West Zone. Sir, we welcome you too.
Hi.
And
Thanks,
all the office bearers. So, sir, would you like to talk about Dr. Murthy, a brief?
Yeah, certainly.
Yes.
Thanks, Dr. Ratambara. I mean, it's a great pleasure for me to be here today again. I must say again that Women and Child Health Committee is one of the only 2 or 3 subcommittees in the West Zone that have been consistently holding programs every single month. And I think that's really commendable and on topics of great relevance. Today's topic also, I mean, it's wonderful. I mean, as Alapi very rightly said, I mean, that's a very common problem which generally is under wraps, not detected, goes unpunished. It's a very common social malady. I remember distinctly one lady, she came from a rather backward community and she gave a history that her husband had slapped her. So I asked her, how do you feel about that? And her response was, she was from the Hindi belt. Her response was, कि डॉक्टर साहब वो तो पति के हाथ का सुख होता है. I mean, she was completely reconciled to it. ये तो पति के हाथ का सुख है. I mean, that's kind of culture we are growing in. So I think this topic is very important for all the mental health professionals. Right. And as has already been mentioned, our 2 very senior colleagues, Dr. Srinivas Murthy and Dr. Roop Sidana, they have joined. Dr. Murthy, I mean, he is a matter of pride for the country. It's a personal pride for me because he was my so-called super senior at PGI Chandigarh. He was 12 years my senior when I joined MD. And from the very beginning of my tenure at PGI Chandigarh, we would often hear stories about Dr. Murthy as to how meticulous and how studious he was. He would always be immersed in the books. And how, as a resident, Sir Murthy, sir, if I'm not wrong, he had gone to Switzerland to present a paper or something. I vaguely remember that. Now, as an MD student, you don't go to, I mean, those heights in those days. But our then HOD, Dr. N.N. Vig, a giant in the field of psychiatry, I mean, he had so much of faith in Dr. Murthy. I mean, it was a well-known fact in my department that Dr. Vig holds Dr. Murthy in very high esteem, and for all the right reasons. And subsequently, we of course saw his going to NIMHANS, rising to great heights, especially in community psychiatry, doing work not only of national significance, but international significance, holding quite a few positions on the international stage. And it has been wonderful. I mean, seeing his trajectory, the kind of work he has been doing, and it's a great inspiration for us all. I would also like to extend a welcome to Dr. Roop Sidana, who happens to be the papa of one of the panelists, Aninda Sidana. Dr. Roop Sidana, again, a very astute doctor. I'll just say one thing about Dr. Roop Sidana. Aninda, I think you also may not be knowing this. When Dr. Roop Sidana was 2 years senior to me at PGI, and when he passed his MD, our HOD, Dr. V.K. Verma, another giant in the field of psychiatry, Dr. Verma was a man of very few words. I mean, he would speak very little, but very obsessive about the words that he chose. And he described Dr. Sidana in just one sentence that Dr. Sidana comes very close to my idea of an ideal resident. Now, Dr. V.K. Verma saying that, I mean, that was huge for all his juniors. So, I mean,
Yes.
there's a caliber of people we have to. Aninda, that must
Actually,
be.
I had heard my dad, he has the notes of Dr. V.K. Verma still with him. He has all the notes.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he's
And
always about.
Verma was great praise for your father. Right. So with that, I again thank Dr. Tambara Mehta for calling me to speak a few words. Thank you so much. And so over to Alapi.
Thank you, sir. But before we start, let me also pay my tribute to Professor Srinivas Murthy, sir. Actually, from Ahmedabad, when I passed MD, I thought that it was not enough. I needed some more knowledge, and somehow we had a colleague from Kerala. She had joined NIMHANS, and I went there. And for the first time, I met Professor Murthy at NIMHANS, wherein he was head of the department. And sir called me for the interview also, and he selected me somehow. And I worked under him in the community psychiatry for all the 3 years, and he has shaped. I have seen him multitasking. I have seen him actually having such great relations with the national, international figures, and he has been so dynamic all throughout. Sir, we really love you, and we really like you a lot.
Ma'am, I would
Thank you
like
for
to
having
add just one or two things to that he has been a mentor to, I would say, innumerable psychiatrists, including me. During my residency, he gave me a chance to present our work on earthquake in an international conference of child and adolescent psychiatry. And we really respect you, sir. Welcome, sir.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you, sir, for gracing today's session. So now I would like to introduce you all to today's panelists and experienced teachers. Yeah. So the first panelist with us today is Dr. Ritambara Mehta, ma'am. She is the professor and head of Department of Psychiatry at Government Medical College.
Alapi, you can be brief so we can cut down on time.
Yes, ma'am. She has various experiences at NIMHANS and BJMC and then GMC Surat. She has experience of additional Dean and Dean at GMC Surat.
That's all I think.
Okay, ma'am. So she of interest in child and adolescent psychiatry, women's mental health. Various publications, research publications are there on her name. And she was the key person in NMHS Gujarat and DUS QR Gujarat. She has been nodal officer for various programs like District Mental Health Program, DOSE Center, and also nodal officer at Drug Treatment Center. She is the chair for various subcommittees like CME subcommittees, IPS GSB, Women and Child Mental Health Subcommittee, and IPS Research Subcommittee. I welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you. So you're introducing all the three of us, right?
Okay, ma'am. Okay. Okay, ma'am. Our second panelist of today's panel discussion is Dr. Khyati Mehtalia, ma'am. She is the owner of Sakhi Women's Mental Health and Child Guidance Clinic at Ahmedabad. She is the executive committee member of IPS GSB as well as IPS West Zone branch, co-chairperson of School Mental Health Subcommittee, Indian Psychiatric Society, IPS, co-chairperson of School Education Counseling Subcommittee. She was the ex-advisor at Public Relations Subcommittee, IPS West Zone branch, ex-chairperson and ex-advisor of Women's Psychological Health Subcommittee, West Zone branch, co-chairperson at School Mental Health Subcommittee, Indian Psychiatric Society. She has prestigious award like Young Psychiatrist Award, BPSS Award at national level, as well as many awards in state and zone. She has done presentations in zonal, national, international conferences. She has many chapters in books written on her name. She has taken several lectures among various medical professionals, done a lot of community work, as already discussed, post-earthquake and post-riots in Gujarat. And she is also Upantya Visharad in Hindustani classical music. I welcome you, ma'am. The third speaker of the panel discussion is Dr. Aninda Sidana, ma'am. She has done JSS Mysore Fellowship in Psychosexual Medicine after MD Psychiatry. She has various awards like Women of Substance Award for Mental Health Awareness on Women's Day at Jaipur. She is the convener of IPS Human Rights Committee and did many webinars on human rights as well as elderly abuse. She was the convener of IPS Public Mental Health Subcommittee. She is currently convener of IPS Sex Medicine Specialty Section. She has also done online classes for fellowship in psychosexual medicine, camp in Sangria by Nishkam Foundation, camp in Hanuman Ghar Apna Ghar Ashram. She was the member organizing committee of IPS North Zone Conference and had an opportunity to interview and have a dialogue with senior most psychiatrist on his book, Most of What We Know About Addiction is Wrong. She has written articles on premarital counseling and tips for healthy married life. She has also article in Hindi newspaper on lockdown में खुद को breakdown से कैसे बचाएं, mental health awareness lectures and talks to for army officials, and she has taken lectures to 150 people on de-addiction on national drug abuse by SKD.
Fine. Yeah. We will start with the presentation, I
Yeah,
think.
okay. Okay, ma'am. Yeah, I welcome you, ma'am. Thank you.
Right. So without wasting much time, I think we have many speakers and many experts here. Thank you very much at the outset. Can you all see the slideshow? Oh, yes. Yes. So intimate partner violence, break the cycle, end it, prevent it. And we all have to get out of our slumber, the whole world, I think, and the nation particularly. So why to discuss IPV at the first outset? Several women I see in my outpatient and even inpatient, and this is one of the major area I come across. And somehow today only, I was actually referred a lady. She was a 30-year-old female with a maternal deprivation that her mother died at the 2010 at her adolescence. She was the eldest daughter of the three siblings. Her first marriage was very abusive, and in 3-4 months she divorced. And she was in the second marriage since last 7 years. And now this husband also was physically abusive, He was indulging in gambling, stock market, etc. And financially also was not supporting. This lady was working, but all her salary used to go paying his debts, etc. Though her own family was supportive, but she was actually, when she got pregnant, she had tubal pregnancies, and both pregnancies were tubal, and she had to actually get operated for that. And now having a child was not at all an option. And then she had IVF, and with that she got the twins. Now with the twins, though the relationship was little abusive, but after the responsibilities which increased and she stopped working, this abuse and this violence increased so much that ultimately she ended up with the psychiatrist. Now, this is a story of many, many women around, and that's why we thought that this is a topic we must talk about. So, IPV, intimate partner violence, is very common, though it can be prevented. We hardly think about it, and many times we don't look at it. If we look at it, also we ignore it. Sometimes we also struggle how to help these women. So it's a major public health problem. 1 out of 3 to 4 women, as WHO says, that there is experience of intimate partner violence. And when there is this violence, it gives profound impact on this person, the victim, as far as her health is concerned, other opportunities are concerned, and so on. And when it starts, it continues for lifelong. Not only that, a lot of other mental health issues also go hand in hand. So I thought that in these 5, 10, 15 minutes or so, I'll be talking about defining intimate partner violence, what are the types seen, global to national prevalence, some impact on the victims, mental health comorbidities, some risk factors, and prevention protection, of course, the others we'll be talking about. So it's an abuse or aggression that occurs in a romantic relationship. Intimate partner refers to both the current as well as the former, not just the married spouses, but also the live-in and the dating partners. There are also some other terms we must know when we are talking about RPV. One is gender-based violence. That is the harmful acts that are rooted in a system of unequal gender power. And now these can happen in any settings like workplace, or sometimes the caste or families, or sometimes the villages or any other cultures that way. And the domestic violence occurs in the family, in the household, maybe parent to child or in the siblings, or even elder or child abuse. So IPV, intimate partner violence, is actually a subset of these both, either domestic violence or a gender-based violence. And sometimes a term used is violence against women, because sometimes males are also the victims. But when we are talking about women, in national and international literature, violence against women also is a term used. But WHO defined it in 2014 as it's the behavior within an intimate relationship that causes physical, sexual, or psychological harm, including physical aggression, sexual coercion, psychological abuse, as well as controlling behaviors.
Ma'am, sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
Are the slides moving, or still we are on the first slide? Because we are able to see only the first slide. So
Really? I have
You will have to do the slideshow.
I have done the slideshow.
Actually, here it is not shown. Yes.
That's
yeah,
what I
now
asked.
now the slide has moved to second number, 10th number. Yeah.
Now can you see?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Right. Okay, fine. So as WHO defines it, as it includes physical aggression, sexual coercion, psychological abuse, as well as some controlling behaviors. So these are the types in which the intimate partner violence presents. Physical violence can be of any variety: slapping, hitting, kicking, beating, sexual violence again, forced sexual coercion, etc. Emotional, psychological abuse is insults, belittling, constant humiliation, intimidation, like destroying things which the person loves or is held at heart, threats of harm, threats to take away the children, which is the biggest emotional abuse that a person can actually get. And the controlling behaviors are like when the person is a perpetrator, he controls the person from meeting or contacting family and friends, monitoring the movements, restricting the access to financial resources, the employment also, education, medical care, etc. And the one more term added by CDC is the stalking. So nowadays, receiving the calls and having on the social media, etc., following voyeurism, all these are also included in the stalking, and so the definition is broadened. So that way, this intimate partner violence is so complex and multidimensional, not just the gender, but it is racial, sometimes religious, cultural, social, economic, and even at the educational levels also. It permeates all the boundaries and escalates over time. Prevalence, of course, Alapi talked a little about it. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 7 men also are reported to be subjected to IPV. And it's a human violation, human rights violation, important cause of morbidity for women, and it's a public health problem. It is also because of that included in the sustainable development goals also. How we measure it, there's something called Global Gender Gap Index. Every year, these parameters actually are looked at: the economic participation, education attainment, health and survival, as well as the political empowerment. And as we see the 2024 index, these are the very high ranking countries where the gender equality is much higher, Iceland to Spain. But when we talk about the Southern Asia, we are coming at the around 63.7. And
Sorry,
if we
ma'am,
talk
for
about
interruption.
India,
Ma'am, again, the slides are not moving.
uh, I can see all of them moving.
Ma'am, still it is not in the slideshow mode.
I have to see. Is it there now?
Yes, ma'am, now it is showing.
I don't know what's going wrong, but I can see them moving. So anyway, India is at 129 out of the 146 countries, and we really have to work a lot. Among the South Asian countries, where we stand is 129. And as we discussed, NFHS, the National Family Health Survey also, the national average is of spouse violence is 32%. There are only few studies in India. Maybe Professor Murthy, if he has some more studies, he can talk about. But we come across a Delhi study in 2010, which talked about 37.5% of prevalence. NFHS, the whole section is actually. Can you see the slide moving now?
No, ma'am, actually, again, it has stopped and somehow the slides are not moving, ma'am.
So shall I do it like this? Can you see now?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll just move it like this. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
Actually, still it is not in slideshow mode, I think. So that is why the problem is happening again and again, ma'am.
I will stop sharing. Again, I'll share. At my computer, it is moving. Why it's not moving there? I don't know. Now is it moving?
Ma'am, it is showing the 29th slide, and I think still it is not slideshow mode here.
Mine are moving, but anyway, I'll not put it on the slideshow. I'll just move it like this. Is
Okay.
that okay? Can you see the moves now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So NFHS, the whole chapter is on domestic violence and 32%, of course, but this is actually tapping only 18 to 49 years. And 29% of the Indian women who have experienced physical or sexual violence have at least once since reported since the age of 15. So we don't know. Still, the figures are much more, and what we see, I think, is only part of which is tapped by NFHS. 3% of pregnant women also are subjected to this violence. Physical injuries, one fourth of the participants reported, and the help seeking is very low. Only 14% who have experienced these intimate partner violence have sought any help. So that is really very saddening that they don't even come for help seeking. Karnataka being the highest ranking with West Zone Maharashtra at 28, Gujarat at 16, and Goa at 10. And if we see this help seeking, when both physical and sexual violence is there, there is 26% help seeking. But when it comes to only sexual, then it comes down to 9.5% only. So that also actually we have to do something about. Of course, over years, some reduction has been noticed, but still it is not enough. From the last NFHS 4, the reduction is around 2%. Some states have done much better, Haryana, Punjab, and Chandigarh. You can see that they have reduced, but Ladakh and Himachal, there is an increase in the violence. So, what is the impact? It really impacts the woman, her psychological, social problems are very evident, but mental health issues are also very prominent. And what we see is not just the physical injury, but chronic health conditions. These women have chronic headaches, gastrointestinal problems, chronic pains, etc. Reproductive health issues also, because there is an increased risk of unwanted pregnancies. Not only that, sexually transmitted diseases also, and many abortions we actually come across because of the violence and injuries, etc. Social isolation, and because of fear of retaliation, lack of resources, etc., the victim also is not able to seek help. As we said, it's only 14%. The impact on the children in the family also of IPV is very high, because children who witness IPV may develop behavioral issues, emotional disturbances. Not only that, later on in their adulthood also, there is a higher risk that they become victims or the perpetrators of the violence. And there are so many economic consequences that we see. Mental health comorbidities also are very high, not just the low self-esteem in the abusive relationship, but especially the risk of depression, anxiety, PTSD, and suicidality. In a 24 meta-analysis, the mental health outcomes, the odds ratio for depression was 2 to 3, PTSD 2 to 2.6, and suicidality to 2.1 to 5.5. That means 5 times increased risk of suicide, and that is really very disturbing. And when we talk about the risk factors, there are individual risk factors, the younger age, lack of social support, unemployment, disability, etc. These mental health conditions, Dr. Khatri will be talking about more. Of course, there are other interpersonal factors where the relationship is conflictual, and there is poor communication skills, etc. The trust problems are there. Partner factors are also there. When the substance use, especially the alcohol, which is much higher, and the attitudes which are not gender equitable or friendly, and there are some psychological or mental health problems in the partner himself, and people, the partners who themselves have experienced or witnessed IPV also in childhood in the home, they are also actually having higher risks that they can be the perpetrators. There are many other social factors also, which I will not be talking about. So the one in JAMA, just recently in Viewpoint, JAMA Psychiatry, just in March issue, just last week, I found this viewpoint, and which is really very interesting, that they have looked at it as not just mental health issues, because we as a psychiatrist, clinicians see them as depressive symptoms or PTSD or complex PTSD or borderline personality disorder, etc. But they say that anger is a very normal and adaptive response when there is a situation of threat or powerlessness or injustice or betrayal. And sometimes these women who experience IPV have problem anger. That means the frequency and intensity can cause distress and the functioning can be interfered with. And see, these problems actually are seen not just in women but in post-military service men also, post natural disasters, in adults and sometimes also, etc. And what these ladies are talking about as a viewpoint is that we require to have more of emotion management strategies which are more evidence based, which are trauma informed, etc. And there is more need for research for what are the linkages to the chronic problems, autoimmune diseases, chronic fatigue syndrome, etc. So this is a very interesting viewpoint I came across. Of course, there are so many preventive and protective measures which are available nowadays. In 1983 onwards, we have this domestic violence recognized as a criminal offense. But when Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act came in 2005, it became even more pronounced. We all know about the POXO, etc. But there is so much more we need to do about prevention, protection, etc. There are so many other IPCs only we have to resort to when there are acid attacks and sexual harassment, stalking, cyber stalking. Now there is cyber crime also. So there are rules which acts which are helping us, but how to prevent and how to stop. When I was looking at these, I just came across this is a beautiful figure I'm showing, but how cyclically it goes, so there is some tension bounding, some gaslighting, some mind game, but suddenly there is a tipping and there is an explosion. There is an episode of this intimate partner violence. But after that, there is a phase wherein there is a remorse or reconciliation, and the partner feels that yes, the person is realizing now no more violence, he is changing, etc. But after some, and there is a honeymoon phase also, and there is a lot of good emotions going through, but again the cycle comes back to the same. And of course Aninda is going to talk more about the prevention, etc. So I'll be ending this. There are so many strategies people have talked about, not just supporting the survivors, but we have to really do a lot at the preventive level. And men and boys also have to be involved equally in these all the programs and processes. I think I end my introduction to that and hand over to Alapi or Khyati.
Thank you, ma'am. That was very thorough and informative. Actually, there is demand for your PowerPoint presentation in the chat box, as some of them could not see the slides properly. So if you can share your slides.
I'll share my slides definitely.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. So moving forward, now I invite Dr. Khyati Mehtalia, ma'am, to talk on IPV in women with mental illnesses. Please, ma'am.
Yes. So I'll share my screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Uh, is it visible?
No,
No, ma'am.
now, yes.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah. So after such a beautiful context set by Ritumra ma'am, I'll limit myself mainly to domestic violence and in psychiatric patients. So the outline of my talk will be, first I'll be talking a brief on domestic violence and mental health. I'll be talking about a study which we had conducted in civil hospital uh, on domestic violence in female psychiatric patients. And last but not the least, I'll talk about the importance of screening for domestic violence by mental health professionals. Now, international studies have clearly established a link between violence against women and their poor mental health. People with mental illness are at increased risk of experiencing violence again. Lifetime prevalence of domestic violence among psychiatric patients has been ranging from 30 to 60%. Women with severe mental illness are more likely to experience domestic violence, 1 in 5, and sexual violence, 1 in 10. In India, women who experience domestic violence report poorer mental health and suicidal tendencies. Now, the important thing here is mental health services provide a critical opportunity for us professionals to identify and provide targeted interventions. Now, according to Golding's 1999 paper, which analyzed 41 research papers, there is a significant association between these two variables, indicating a strong link between exposure to violence and mental health symptoms. This association has been consistently replicated across different populations, settings, and time periods, demonstrating its reliability. Furthermore, the study found that the onset of symptoms or the exacerbation of symptoms typically occur after exposure to violence, establishing a clear temporal relationship. The research also revealed a dose-response gradient, where greater the exposure to violence, higher the risk of developing the symptoms. And experimental evidence also suggested that when violence is stopped, mental health improves. And when again the violence returns, there is a deterioration in mental health. And women experiencing domestic violence are 4 times more likely to suffer PTSD, depression, and feel suicidal, and 6 times more likely to abuse alcohol or other drugs. There have been studies of prevalence of domestic violence in psychiatric patients where the prevalence has ranged from 30 to 64%. Now, talking about our study, our aims were to find out the frequency of DV in female psychiatric patients, to find out demographic as well as domestic violence related factors, and to find the association of DV with mental illness. We had included 100 patients, female psychiatric patients who could give interview, and we explored them we explored the demographic characteristics, disease related characteristics, experience of physical, psychological, and sexual violence, their frequency, the patient's perception of causes of abuse, consequences of DV, and narratives we recorded as verbatim. And we found that out of it, 88 patients had experienced domestic violence. I don't know why it's moving. So,
If you can, ma'am, end the slideshow and again start it.
okay. Yeah. So sexual abuse was present in
I think someone
53 patients. 69 patients had undergone physical abuse, and maximum abuse was psychological. That was experienced by 73 patients. I think we can have people mute themselves. Now, if we see, then physical abuse was perpetrated mainly by the husband, whereas psychological abuse was perpetrated by the husband as well as other in-laws, maybe more by others. And when we compared the two groups, that is the patients with DV and the patients without DV, we didn't find any significant uh, differences in the socio-demographic characteristics either of the patients or of the husbands. And now we came to the effects. So the physical effects of abuse included physical injury, constant pain, eye injuries, fractures, incapacitation to the extent of bed rest. More than 70% of the patients felt depressed and tense. More than 50% had sleep disturbance, low sexual desire, suicidal ideation, also poor self-esteem, apprehension, self-blame, tobacco use. We also found in the patients with DV. If we compare the marital and sexual satisfaction of both the groups, we can say that 70% of the DV group were not satisfied with their marriage, whereas 75% of the control group were satisfied. Not only the patients, but their children were also affected who had witnessed DV in their home. More than 60% felt sad, tense, fearful. The children also reported poor school performance, disobedience. They showed withdrawal, sleep disturbance, and some also resorted to bullying. Now, the most common reason given for abuse was answering back or disobeying the husband or the in-laws, followed by not doing chores, not making food in time or properly. Just like I remembered the movie Mrs. when I saw that. This was followed by refusal to have sex. The other reasons were not taking care of parents or relatives, talking to people whom the husband doesn't want to, expressing contrary opinion, having extramarital relation, asking about money, going out without permission, not taking care of children, etc. And when we studied the responses of the patient, 76% unfortunately tolerated silently. Only 40% talked to the parental family. 35% gave in to what the husband does. 33% didn't talk about it to anybody. Very few talked to friends. A few left for parents' house. A few just ran away or locked themselves in the room. Only 25%, that is 1 in 4, shouted for help. And 17% hit back. Change I'm seeing, maybe now I'm in the private setting, I'm seeing patients who really hit back their husbands. Only 3.4% complained to the police. The reasons given for tolerating were woman has to tolerate maximum. Patients gave that for the sake of children, no one else would support me, hoping that he'll change, a very common reason. To separate is not okay, the stereotype belief. He'll leave me or divorce me, the fear, financial dependence, I don't have my income. And again, that those silly reasons that I love him a lot and I can't leave him, whatever he does, it's okay. Now, when we asked about the spouse characteristics to the patients, what they felt, why is he abusing? Somebody says personality, his nature is like that, he gets angry easily. Male dominant society, the man says, I am a man, I can do anything wrong. You are a woman and you have to tolerate. Dowry, your parents are beggars, they did not give me anything. Had I married someone else, I would have been a king. Alcohol use, like a patient said, my children and I tremble like a leaf, apprehensive at 6. He would come drunk. He would first abuse each of us, then beat us with whatever he can seize in hands. possessiveness. In his presence, you cannot praise any man. He would not allow me to go to my parental home alone. He would ask me to return as soon as possible. Now, we studied the psychiatric diagnosis. So, the most common psychiatric diagnosis in the DV group was major depression and depression plus somatoform disorders, which was present in 42 and 11% of the patients. Now, a conclusion which we had taken out was, and this was reported by the patients as well, 33% of the patients said that mental illness had contributed to domestic violence in some way, which is very understandable that because of the mental illness, the patient is not able to fulfill all the responsibilities, and the husband or the in-laws, instead of understanding and supporting that, they would lead to domestic violence. 54% said that domestic violence had caused or increased the severity of mental illness. So it was a vicious cycle. And 48% believed that if domestic violence would not have occurred, they would not have had mental illness. So the implications. Screening. Should there be screening? Yes. All the mental health professionals should screen the patients, especially the female patients, for domestic violence. But that is not happening. Why? Probably mental health professionals may also be deterred from addressing domestic violence due to the feeling of inability to cure or effectively address the issue. Some professionals may also avoid the topic due to close identification with their own personal experiences of abuse, making it emotionally challenging to address. Time constraints can be a barrier as professionals may feel they lack the time to adequately explore and address domestic violence concerns. Lastly, some professionals may adopt a not my role attitude, believing that addressing domestic violence falls outside their scope of practice or expertise. Like many patients who come to me, they have been to previous male psychiatrists. They say that my husband was not letting me talk to the male doctor alone, because of which I could not say anything. And being a female doctor, I can like dictate to the husband that I would like to talk to the patient alone, during which she would confess everything which she is going on. And now the survivors of domestic violence, who are the service users of mental health, they also have some barriers to disclosure. Like they have the fear of potential harmful consequences from the husband, such as retaliation or further abuse. The stigma surrounding domestic violence can also prevent disclosure, as survivors may fear not being believed or being judged by others. Survivors may fear being blamed themselves for the abuse. तुमने ही कुछ गलत किया होगा, and that is why you were being abused, which can perpetuate the feelings of shame and guilt. Lack of acknowledgement or validation from mental health professionals can also discourage and the disclosure, making the victims feel unheard or dismissed. And mental health professionals may be too much focused on the biomedical model, not focusing on what is happening or what are the stresses the female is going through. Now, if we say disclosure of domestic violence requires mainly good communication skills, which include listening, validating, empathizing, non-judgmental stance, and assurance of confidentiality, for which we all have been trained. So I would urge to all the mental health professionals, please use all these skills, please give some time, and please lend an ear to the woman, which is going to help a lot. Of course, where the professionals are confused of not knowing how to go ahead, there are a few ground rules like set boundaries, set clear limits, agree upon the time, duration, contact between the meetings, etc. and discuss goals which should be realistic, achievable, and should be chosen by the woman. And our role should be very explicit, defined by limits, empowering, and we recognize progress. Many complain that the woman goes on, and then we don't know how to end the session. Now, get the ending right for yourself. Learn about the completion. See, if you will start to discuss each and every problem, then you will never end. We don't have to provide the solution to each and every problem which the woman is seeing, but we have to provide the tools to the woman which will help her solve the problems herself. You have the right to manage your ending, whatever the client chooses. And still, if we are getting frustrated in dealing with patients with domestic violence, remember, it is not the woman who is the problem. It is not you who is the problem. It is the domestic violence that is the problem. So, screening for domestic violence will provide opportunity for intervention. It will improve overall social functioning, and it will enhance therapeutic relationship. And hence, we should screen all the patients for domestic violence. I won't spend more time. We will, because I'm looking forward to listen to Anida. She'll be having like you can say, plethora of strategies to combat domestic violence. So over to Aninda.
Thank you, ma'am. It was very nicely elaborated, particularly the impact of domestic violence on children and also the need for screening. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, so how?
And now I welcome Dr. Aninda, ma'am, to
Thank you.
give us some insights on preventive measures of for this intimate partner
Yeah.
violence.
Can you share the slide?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So, thank you, Dr. Khyati ma'am and Dr. Ritamra ma'am, for giving me the opportunity to talk on the topic which is very close to my heart. So, for me, it is like I would like to talk on breaking the cycle of violence and basically to end and as a call to action, how to end it. Can we move the slides here? So, I would like to ask if change is the answer, what is the question? So, is the question that women will be suffering all the time behind the closed doors and gender based violence is going to continue? Or the question is, what are we going to do about it? Are we ready to make it as a gender equality and make an inclusive society? So, if change is the answer, what is the question? We have to ponder upon it. First of all, this change should not have been the answer because the problem should not have been there. Next slide. So, domestic violence is an epidemic, and yet we don't address it until it happens to celebrities and us. We can move it like because ma'am and Dr. Khyati has already talked about it. Next, please. So, what are the root causes of the gender based violence? So, the root causes of gender based violence lie in the patriarchal system mainly and the power dynamics, which is invisible power dynamics, which is status quo maintained in the society, and also the toxic masculinity, which is there, and people are taught like men can't cry, and all those things are the root causes of gender based violence. And the another causes are learned behavior, and the another behavior like insecure attachment style, many and substance use, all the causes are there. So next slide. So this is the invisible power dynamics that men are always above the women. So this is because the ability to maintain the status quo because of a shared unspoken belief that it's natural. But now we have to change it because this perpetuates the power imbalance and inequality, and it normalizes the violence against women and girls and creates a culture of women being silenced and unheard all the time. So we should dismantle this. And how does an abuser gain the control over the victim? It is mainly the financial dependence comes. Recently, I had an argument, like I would like not name anybody, yeah, but with a mental health professional who was like, you are raising so much of talk about gender based violence just to gain publicity because थोड़ा बहुत abuse तो चलता है कि फाइनेंशियल गेन भी तो होता है शादी में, तो थोड़ा बहुत अब्यूज चलता है. एंड आई वॉज शॉक्ड. सो दिस एंड कमिंग फ्रॉम अ मेंटल हेल्थ प्रोफेशनल. सो द कॉजेज इज लाइक द डीप रूट in our patriarchal system that violence is normal, ये सब चलता है. Then women are dependent financially and isolation, then the stigma of divorce, which we should first of all tell that divorced daughter is much better than a dead daughter or a daughter who is dying in their house. So the power control mechanism which the person uses, first mechanism is the isolation. They will isolate you from all the family members, from friends, and love bomb you. They will make you understand that they are the only one who is loving you, and then you go into the isolation, and then there comes the blaming, minimizing, public humiliation, subtle comments, and threats start coming using the male privilege, like I am the man of the house, I can do anything. So all this is the power and control behavior which enables the abuse. Next slide. So this is the cycle of violence. First of all, we should stop asking the question that what happened. Like we should ask men instead of the women. And yeah, the question why you stayed for the such a long time, because the most courageous step is to decide when to walk out. Rest of the time, even you can tolerate the abuse, tolerate the separation, but when to walk out is difficult because the phase is like this cycle keeps on going on. The person comes with the apologies, with the gifts, with the promises, and you keep on feeling like on the top of the world. And as I say, narcissist sells the dream, but it becomes the nightmare. And he is the most charming man and the most charming abuser because in front of everybody he will be the most charming person, and behind the closed door nobody knows. So deciding to leave becomes difficult as everybody else won't even trust you. Like, oh, how he can be abusive? He's so charming, he helps everybody. So it is like walking on the eggshells all the day, and we keep on doing things to make them happy, but then again falling in love, then falling out of love, and it takes at least 7 to 12 times before you decide to leave. And it took me 3 years in both the marriages to decide to leave. So it's the most difficult step. Next. So, like, toxic masculinity is the one thing which should be dismantled, and definitely many mental health professionals and even many celebrities are talking about it. That even there is a Be a Man Yar by Nikhil Taneja. Then Farhan Akhtar has come up with Men Against Rape and Discrimination. Then there was a event in Delhi. It was Redefine Masculinity, which is very important. We should redefine masculinity. It is मर्द को दर्द नहीं होता, ऐसा नहीं है. Men can be vulnerable and men should be taught to be vulnerable, that vulnerability is strength, and to express their emotions. And it is not a win-win situation. Its relationships are always mutual. Next. So I would like, I hope this video plays. I have sent the video separately also.
Yes, ma'am. Give
Yeah,
me
can you
one
play the
second.
video? Yeah.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
So it is basically how gender stereotypes are prevalent in our society. Recently, Virat Kohli has this answered these questions. Sound is not there.
Sorry, ma'am.
Sound is not there.
Okay, ma'am. I will.
Yeah. Oh,
What would you call a woman?
yeah. Now it's playing.
What would you call a man coming home post midnight? Late. What would you call a woman coming home post midnight? Lose. Describe a man losing his cool. Hot tempered. A woman losing her cool? Lack of class. A man being aggressive? Power. A woman being aggressive? Terror. The man wearing the pants? Boss. The woman wearing the pants? Bossy. A man putting work before home? Focused. A woman putting work before home? Selfish. A man having the last word? Authority. A woman having the last word? Pushy. If boys will be boys and men can be men, then why can't our women be themselves without being judged by men?
Yes. We can go to the next slide. So these are the gender stereotypes. Whenever a woman speaks up, even in the workplace, she is called bossy, assertive, she is labeled, and men are not labeled. So that is like, to break the gender stereotypes is very important to reach gender equality. I believe we men and women are made differently. Uh, there are slides are not there. So men and women are different biologically, even psychologically, everything is different. But still we can exist together, if not equal, but mutual or in harmony or equity. Because there are many roles which cannot be played by a man and which can, so that is to be taken care of. So, as a feminist, our goal is not against patriarchy, because I have seen many men who have actually support women's rights, but and many women who are nosy and who are who get jealous and doesn't support the females. So, as a feminist, it's not about beating men; it's about the gender equality and making them talk about it. The first feminist was born the day the patriarchy was created. So the problem, the answer, like the to change, if change is the answer, so what is the change? The change is like, in our generation, a whole generation worked in the last many years to empower the women, but they forgot to teach men how to live with the empowered women. So this is which has to be taught. And also I would like to tell the parents, teach your son to be a gentleman and raise your daughter to accept nothing less than a gentleman. So this is the time to flip the script. That is, for the men, it's like foster healthy masculinity in boys and men. Lead by example, promoting positive male role models. Involve men as allies. Practice self-reflection and accountability. Teach healthy relationship skills and respect. Honor women's autonomy and decision making. Empower men to challenge the patriarchal norms and stand in solidarity with the survivors and the advocates. Create a culture of healthy masculinity. Raise boys and men to respect and value equality. Inspire a movement of men working to end IPV. And partner with women and marginalized communities to create the change and transform toxic masculinity into healthy, positive masculinity. So I believe our men should be a little bit feminine and women should become stronger. That is the change we require. So to make women stronger, that is the PAPA's initiative. It was made after the Nirbhaya Kand by a friend of mine, Mahesh S. Kamath. He is the director. He has done around 200 or 300 workshops in the school, basically to empower girls through situational awareness and strategic thinking. As men or women are built differently. Even if you teach a woman, a girl, karate, she cannot beat a man in the fight. So we have to teach them the anticipation, the critical thinking, the strategy, like educate them on the potential risk and threats, their attitude, their confidence, self assurance, and to like sense the situation where she is not comfortable. Next slide. So this is the Papa's initiative. I will share the video about it. It has like to empower the girls through situational awareness and strategic thinking, educate them on potential risk and threats, and teach them to identify the early warning signs of red flags, encourage them to take proactive measures, attitude, mindset of confidence, and encourage them to trust their instinct and trust the gut. Teach them to be assertive and set healthy boundaries. Teach them unexpected emotions and encourage them to have a plan B, to think critically, to escape when they are not able to. Provide them with the skills like anticipation and also like to carry the pepper spray. All the things can be done. Foster a mindset of proactive thinking and problem solving. Next. So now it is like a butterfly. We can one should believe that women should believe she is being abused and realize the problem, understand what the problem is, then tell her close friends. At least one or two friends or relatives should be told this is the escape plan which she should have ready. Track and keep important documents in the escape bag, money, whatever she needs. Reach out for help, find safe housing. It's like for outside, if we can come to our parents' house, and legal help and the safety, because the moment the abuser realizes you are planning to escape, that is the most life threatening moment. So that should not be there. So a butterfly is like this. Then the escape plan comes. Escape is like evaluate your situation, recognize the signs of IPV and assess your risk. Secure and safe place to be identified. Create a support system. Access resources like even National Commission of Women, Domestic Violence Help Centers. Then plan your escape. It cannot be like you are planning and you are writing in a diary or talking to someone, they come to know you are finished. Escape safety should be there. Protect yourself, and for that you have to love yourself, prioritize your own well-being, because you have to move in the life ahead and you have to act to rebuild your life and nurture your future. So this is the escape plan everyone should have. It is the men of quality do not fear equality. The men only who are abusive, they will fear the gender equality. So men of quality never. A man who treats his women like a princess is a proof that he has been born and raised in the arms of a queen. So that is why raising men right is very important. So now manhood, it is not like झुकेगा नहीं साला, कि झुकने से क्या होगा या मैं नहीं रो सकता, दर्द नहीं होता मुझे. It is man. This is not being man. Manhood is like mindful, being present and aware of one's thoughts and emotion, authentic, embracing one's true self, nurturing emotional intelligence, healthy and prioritizing the physical and mental well-being, being open-minded, celebrating the wins of the wife also, not only their own, and ownership, taking responsibility of his own actions, and daring, embracing that, as I always say, vulnerability is strength. So daring is like embracing the vulnerability. Next. So engaging men as allies in the fight against gender-based violence is important, because they will understand the problem, challenge the stereotypes, consent will be taught, positive masculinity will be taught, and safe spaces can be created and collaboration can be done. So, and for the women, for men and society, I will tell, give them wings. It's like women's empowerment, educate and empower women to control their own life and make informed decisions. Innovative solutions, developing and implementing innovative solutions to address the intimate partner violence. Nurturing support. Support system is very important, and I have literally survived on my support system. Gender equality to be promoted, and safety and security to be ensured for the survivors. So this is like give them wings. Give the wings to the women first, they become the butterfly, and then give them wings. So all human beings are born free and equal in dignity. Next you can, yeah, this next slide. So what is gender equality? Equal rights, responsibilities and opportunities of women and men, girls and boys. Everyone is entitled to equal right. So storytelling has a power. By telling my story, other survivors will see it is possible to overcome the trauma of domestic violence and the injustice of the patriarchal system. which always seem to believe and encourage the men. So whenever I share my story and whoever shares the story, it gives courage to at least one woman to break the silence and come out of the abusive relationship. And United Nations Women also started a campaign called Hear Her Story. Why storytelling has a power is because it creates empathy, it challenges the stereotypes, raises the awareness, it empowers the survivors, and advocacy tool and break the silence. So what survivor-led approaches can be there are very impactful because the empathy which the survivors can have, and like Dr. Khyati said, like everyone should screen for the domestic violence. So I always say, like, being a survivor and a mental health professional, now I am equipped to actually screen for it and do justice to them, and to amplify the voices and ensure that responses to gender based violence are informed by the survivors, and a transparent culture is maintained. With the survival led approaches, even the survivors and the like who are suffering, they feel that they have got a safe space to talk about. Next. So principles are centering the survivor voice, they are trauma informed, therapies are done, community driven, empowerment and focus. Even the survivor themselves, they get a positive feeling by helping even a single person. That is the empowerment they also get, and that is the process of their own healing. So it is inclusive and accessible. What are the benefits? Increased effectiveness, increased trust, empowerment, healing, accountability, credibility is increased. So the principles are collaborative partnerships, transparency, power and self-determination, respect, focus on the strengths and capabilities, and even the survivors who are doing the survivor-led approaches, they should also keep on ongoing healing process. Even if they need help, they should also talk about it, and because healing is not linear, it takes time. Next. So towards mutuality of the sexes, which should work, developing the role models for women, empowering women with skills, assertiveness and professional norms should be set, crisis support. Next. So there can be policy recommendations, like especially who is raising our children. Like Dr. Murthy sir recommended me to read a book, who is raising our children. It's like we are about talking about the gender equality, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals by 2030 we want to reach. But it should start by raising the children right, raising men and women both in a way that gender equality should be achieved. So raising men right is very important. So implementing educational problems from the, and I believe like in the schools only, the positive psychology, emotional intelligence should be a part of a curriculum instead of the other things. Next. So integrate mutuality focused education, organize community events, initiative, encourage men to become allies, advocate for policies. So yes, I believe that gender equality cannot be achieved, maybe because our society, females are in the caregiving role and males have their own roles, the professional, and definitely the nurturing caregiving what females can do, males cannot do, and the strength required roles which males can do, females cannot. So it cannot be equal because everything is anyways biologically different. So it can be mutually we can exist, or we can exist in harmony, that is mutual respect and trust, understanding and empathy, transparency and accountability, unconditional support and care, active listening and communication, love and compassion, intimacy, trust, loyalty, and it's about you and me together. So this is a poem I wrote, but I have divided it into this. From equal strife to mutual life, we sought equality, a level ground where man and woman stood unbound. But lines were drawn, battles raged. For measured worth on every stage, let's run from you and me to us. Shared reality, hearts entwined, wise and cool. No scales, no rules, just understanding voice. When supports woven deep, a guiding choice. Equal seeks perfection, but mutual opens doors. Let's build a world where us is strong and true, hand in hand, a mutual thriving land. When you and me become us, a promising stand that can lead to a gender equality and a peaceful world. So this is a I would like to this is by men and rape discrimination. The this English charter, I used it because it was in a Bangalore. It was an international conference. The Hindi poem is also there, which Farhan Akhtar has recited. He who's I basically how a man should be. So you all can listen to that poem. It's very nice. Basically, man should be humble, should have respect for women, and indomitable and the strength companion, and that is the definition of a man. Next. So the men against rape and discrimination, many celebrities are also coming up, and men against rape. Mard means many voices, one movement. Alias for equality, alias for justice, respect, empathy, and compassion for all. Dismantling patriarchy, dismantling oppression. Then only we can make a good, inclusive society. The way forward is like government, judiciary system has to change, the legislation and policies, then education should be changed, then creating awareness through social media, make the value of gender diversity visible in workplaces, political participation, provide information and education about discrimination and right. So conclusion is to break the cycle of violence. It is essential to promote healthy masculinity, mutual respect, active allyship among men. By challenging the traditional norms and embracing emotional growth, we will create a safer and more equitable society. Okay, thank you. And yes, I would like to request everyone to take a pledge to be an advocate for gender based violence, and especially men to be allies for it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So it was a wonderful session, a beautiful amalgamation of your creativity and knowledge, I would say, because you elaborated the topic with beautiful mnemonics, and yet it was a very sensitive matter and very relevant for current times. So thank you, ma'am.
Before Professor Murthy departs us, sir, we would like to have your wise words.
Thank you very much. I won't mention all the names and other things so that we save time.
Yes.
It's been wonderful listening to all of them. And since I know all the three speakers at various points of time, it was very special for me. I want to reflect a little differently than what all three of you have said, not because I disagree with it, because I think we need to go beyond that. I go back to the statement which Aninda made. If change is the answer, what is the question? The question is, how do we bring about the change? The question is, how do we bring about the change? If we are going to talk about masculine, toxic masculinity, we must dismantle it. We are not going to get anywhere. Let me share it with you, not as a man, but as mental health professionals. We have to think of a different way. Why am I saying that? Let me just tell you about two films which I saw this week. One is in Netflix called Adolescence. If you have not seen it, it's a 4-episode one which was discussed even in the British Parliament. Even Keir Starmer, Prime Minister, complimented them and said, look, I have 2 daughters, 1 son and a daughter who are adolescent. It is a very good description of what can go wrong if we don't give importance to the family as a unit. The other one which I saw was an Australian television last week on the 17th it's called Betrayal of Trust. It's about the bad situation of childcare facilities. When you see it, you will wonder, how can Australia have this when it is even Somalia would have a better childcare facilities than what they described it. The abuse and various things. Betrayal of Trust, it's available in the YouTube. Just put it and see it. And you will realize, why am I saying these two things to you? Is that if we go for a dismantling of the family as a unit, functioning unit, we are going to get into a lot of problems. Very often we talk about toxic masculinity, this, that, and other things, as though there is no cost to it. There is a lot of cost to women getting into jobs, the family unit getting broken up, the various things. Obviously, you will say that, Dr. Murthy, what is the solution? My solution is as follows. I see it at 3 levels. First is immediate, all that you have all covered. I don't need to talk about it, psychiatric interventions and all of that. But that is not going to solve the problem. In point of fact, the Psychiatric Times of March has an article. It says we should not expect rates of mental illness to melt away due to widespread treatment. We need to go somewhere else to look at the problem. Where is it that we have to go? The intermediate level is life skills, education, and all those things that to bring about things. But even that is not good enough. We need to think of a long-term one. And there, I personally feel, as we mental health professionals in India, we have a bigger role. The West has gone into a very narrow way of looking at the mind-body. They separated the mind-body, all the things about it. We are in a situation where we are still not lost all of it. The same way we are going back to solar energy for energy, we need to go back to the family life as sacred. Why do I say that, and how do we do that? I'll finish within a minute or two. Firstly, to get a historical perspective, remember that less than 100 years back, none of these things were relevant. And much of what we are seeing is the 10,000 years of human history, where for various historical reasons, the roles of men and women have occurred. You also remember that during the last 100 years, dramatic changes have occurred, whether it's voting, whether it's public education, or all the things. So we are in a position of change without any doubt. I mean, compared to my mother, all of you are in a different world altogether, and your children will be in a different world altogether. So change is the order of the day. The question is, do we want it overnight? Like Aninda was saying it, let it happen, we'll do this, we'll do that. No, it will not happen. It will occur overnight, over time. I'm not saying that you keep quiet about it, but if we get a perspective of victimizing men, obviously there are only 2 groups of people, men and women. And if you're going to say men are the victims, we're going to put them in jails, or we're going to do this, do that, you're not going to get anywhere. We're not going to get anywhere. I can tell you that much, not because I'm a man. We need to find a way of mutuality, not in ideas, but in practice. Which means, as the last slide of Aninda showed, legal level things, practical level things, spiritual level things, societal level things, educational level things. And we have to think of a time frame against which we should go for. Otherwise, we say it should happen tomorrow, nothing will happen. Again, we will get into a cul-de-sac, as we call it in anatomy. We get into a position of saying tu my. So my own personal thing is, it's been very good, but let's not go through the process that has gone through in the West of trying to think of empowerment of women as the solution for everything. Let's think of rediscovering. The word mutuality was given by my student Pradeep Pramod Kumar Singh, who was also from PGI. And I personally think that we really need to ask ourselves, not get into the idea Manuskriti is wrong, we are this one, that one. Let's sit back and ask, what is it that we want to do? How can we do it at the level of the individual, the family, the community, the society, the legal things, not giving importance to any one of them as the solution. Thank you very much. It's been wonderful listening to all of you. And we have a long way to go. And I think we should go through the journey as someone said, it is a journey, not a destination. Thank you very much.
Definitely, sir. Thank you. Thank you for your wisdom. Any questions or any discussions or suggestions, Alapi?
We don't have any questions in the chat box. There are no questions on the topic.
Some comments are there if you can read them.
So, Sidna sir has said that good coverage of the
So
Very
all that you can miss out, but some very relevant ones like from Isha Chopra.
Yes, yeah. I would like to welcome her. Like, she has written a book, Finding Order in Disorder.
Okay.
So she works for the gender-based violence and also bipolar disorders, and she has her NGO, Finding Order in Disorder NGO in Canada. She is based, and
Uh-huh.
she has joined it. Yeah, I would like to thank her for joining and giving the time also, and she's doing a wonderful job. Community sessions she's taking, and by talking about arts therapy, dance therapy, and healing sessions, all the things.
Great. What she has written is family units being broken up is again a societal view or patriarchal view of women's inherent right to work. Both parents are essential, and we have to come a long way than the last 100 years ago. Also, there are not only two groups, men or women. This world is gender diverse. Yeah,
Yeah,
that this
nice.
is profound. Yes. Why only Sir said yes, family life, both are partners, but the roles which are defined 100 years ago or maybe whatever we have seen now need to change. Like, why not? What that's what she's saying, that why not men also can raise the kids, or why not men also can do the household, or why not men can take the role of women as such. So yeah, and vice versa.
Actually, ma'am, you also mentioned that even males are sometimes victim of this intimate partner violence. So, are there any differences between the typology of this domestic violence done on women and men?
Oh yeah, like what I have seen in this some of the literature is that sexual violence per se is very rare and very minimal by the women, but emotional violence and physical violence definitely. There are books written on that also, and
Yes,
yes, women also
emotional
actually.
violence
Yes.
occur in men, and definitely, especially when they are with the like borderline personalities, they get married or
Oh yes.
something, and also they suffer more because men never talk about it. It's about they keep on bottling up their emotions, and they feel it's not, they cannot ask for help, and they suffer for a long period of time, and then the there has been rise in suicide cases. And yeah, definitely it can be the media reporting which is being glorifying it, and copycat suicide are also there, but still many men are also suffering, and men's mental health is also important. That's why, like I say, toxic masculinity to be turned to positive masculinity is more about teaching men about talking about their own emotions. When they are also suffering, they can talk until the day like they blast one day. So instead of that, they should talk about it, and emotional regulation should be there. They should be taught like they can express the emotion, and they should not have to take the burden of all the responsibilities. So that is there.
हमारे यहाँ एक
Yeah.
कहावत है कि पुरुषों का हाथ चलता है और स्त्रियों की जुबान चलती है. So
Then
sometimes there is also a lot of
yes,
literature of
provocation
it,
is
that
there at times.
how each other are feeding into their behaviors.
Yes, definitely.
Even Isha ma'am has shared that I have had experiences of males sharing experiences of physical abuse as well. It
Yes.
exists both ways, so interesting to hear of this subject.
वो बेलना लेके जो पीछे पड़ती है.
Actually, right now I am seeing a case where I am empowering the man to stand up and fight against his wife. The patient is the daughter, 10 years old, who is so much afraid of her mother because she like tortures not only her, but everybody in the family. She's not ready to come for counseling or anything. And the husband is so suppressed that I am empowering him that you stand up.
And From where they get the. I don't know.
Because these guys are more afraid of the legal action which the wife would be taking, and they say that
Yes, definitely.
कानून तो अभी और तो कोई सुनता है, हमारा तो कोई सुनता
नहीं,
नहीं है.
कानून औरतों की बिल्कुल नहीं सुनता है. इसमें तो आई कैन हैव अ डिबेट प्रॉपर. औरतों की बिल्कुल नहीं सुनता कानून, बदल चुका है. वो अतुल सुभाष के एक केस ने सब कुछ बदल दिया है.
Vedana sir has also mentioned that Patni, he has heard about Patni Pidit Association long time ago.
Well,
Okay,
if
so
at the last, I think we must tell all our people, clients, there are so many helplines available. 181 is there, 1091 is there. But other than that, at Nimhans, Dr. Prabha Chandra, she has actually been working for many years now. Stree Manoraksha. Okay, she has trained so many people, counselors, whoever. Even now, I think probably there's a website, and I think
And
we
there
must
is a certificate course also there,
certificate course.
which
Yes,
people can do for
yes,
the domestic violence.
yes.
I think, should we?
Dr. Bhave, if he has any comments, and then
Isha ma'am is asking for sharing the link of that course which you mentioned.
ma'am, on the website, you just write Sri Manoraksha, and you will be able to. Otherwise, maybe later on in the WhatsApp group, we will share that. Yes, Sri Manoraksha. Yes.
Isha is a like gender-based violence advocate, and she has written in her book also about her lived-in experience. And if she would like to talk about it, like what advocacy can be done, so I would like to. We would like to hear her.
Yeah, please.
Isha, can you please?
Hello, yeah, I didn't want to, start talking just like that, but yeah, I mean, I did want to share. I have also been through this in my previous marriage, and actually, in my case, it was very different, especially because I already had a diagnosis of bipolar, and I found also the previous presentation very interesting, especially how. Mental health diagnosis intersects with also domestic violence and intimate partner violence. And there are definitely I was actually really told to exit, not only because, of course, the abuse is bad, but because it can trigger, right? Especially when someone has a diagnosis. So, but thank you so much for having this session. I know maybe this was open for doctors, and I'm very privileged that I was invited by Dr. Ananda for this. But this is essentially exactly what the topics and the very pertinent topics that need to be discussed right now, especially in India, but also in the West. I'm right now currently in Canada, so definitely looking out to have more collaborations. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Right. Dr. Bhave, is he there?
He is there, ma'am.
Any others? I can see Dr. Gaurav here. Nilima, Dr. Nilima.
Bhavesh sir is there, I guess.
Okay, then.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. This was really a wonderful session from all the three speakers, and it feels like we could go on and on discussing on this topic, and so many cases of patients we've seen also comes to our mind how there are some women who do not tolerate even a little bit. Like sir was talking about movies, I was reminded of one movie which is called Thappad, in which Tapsi Pannu acts, and she just puts her foot down and said कि एक बार भी नहीं मार सकता थप्पड़.
Yes.
And even the lawyer and everybody is her family and in-laws, and everybody tries to convince her ki you have to let go and you have to do this and that, but she says that no, I've lost my self-respect and I can't love this man anymore, and this is it. I would be cheating him and cheating myself if I just forget about this thappad and move on with my marriage and my life. So on one end there are women who really put their foot down and do not tolerate anything. On the other hand, we also have women who put up with a lot of violence, and they keep on thinking that it's their moral duty to be loyal to their husbands and to not let the family break. So this is a whole spectrum, and it's really a humongous task, I feel, to make women realize themselves that this is not tolerable, and you have to draw a boundary and you have to maintain your own dignity and raise your voice whenever something unfair happens, and do whatever it takes to just prevent that. And putting up with it should not be a choice at all. So that's what I feel I should be saying as of now.
Yes.
I wanted to just maybe I will put the video on for this so I can say hi to everyone. Oh yeah, hi. Hello everyone. So I actually got inspired by the movie Provoked, which I saw, which features Aishwarya Rai, which I saw back when I was in Germany and I was married at that time. And he screened it for some guests, and I was thinking to myself that, and because it's based on a true story, right? So do you really want to put yourself in a position where you get provoked, or like you just end up like feeling so
Yes.
vengeful? So that's when I decided that it's time to step out. But definitely even Thappad was so powerful, because very often we think we have to do it because not just for moral duty, but then also there's that, how easy is it to really exit? And then everyone has like different kind of reasons. But I would imagine that in India, there's also a lot of like family pressure to kind of try to make it work, and especially the stigma of divorce kicks in. But thank you for sharing that. Yeah, definitely. I really like that a lot of movies are portraying these both fiction and non-fiction genres. So thank you.
There's one movie with Alia Bhatt. I don't remember her name, the name of the movie, but there was a lot of.
Darlings.
Yes, darling.
And then actually, but I also say like we should also talk. मतलब मिसेस मूवी का इतना वो बनाया है, तो उससे पहले we should have talked about Animal and Pushpa, in which the masculinity is also glorified. And yes,
Yes.
Thappad movie is one thing which is like उसका dialogue, तो it it echoes in my mind still. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so that's why I believe storytelling has a power, and especially Bollywood.
Definitely.
When I also want to share my experience when I work with children specifically, and when they witness in their family this domestic violence or this kind of abuse, there is a tremendous impact on them, and that can lead them to have that pent up aggression towards one of the parents, and that power dilemma between the parents. So even we get many oppositional children, and even they go on to develop conduct once they have seen this kind of repetitive domestic violence in their family. So um, I think it is a very important topic, child psychiatry point of view as well.
Okay, then we'll wind up then.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, so we had a great pleasure having all the experienced teacher with us in today's panel discussion, and we had this enlightening session on this very demanding and I think relevant topic of the day. And it was very informative session. So I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed speakers, senior teachers for their contribution, and the organizers of this webinar, and also to our beloved audience. Your presence made this session truly meaningful. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye. I think we as the committee, are we extending Khyati and Dr. Gaurav and Dr. Swati? We can stop recording. Khyati, you are muted.
So should we extend over here, or I'm just putting a separate Zoom link and we can
Okay.